Thank you very much for the invitation. And the topic of my keynote is a result of those questions which accompanied the initial project of the program, which said what we were going to discuss. It's just the word there was not economics, but political economy, but voluntary and involuntary. Buzgalin, well, kind of made me talk about it on purpose, because when they mentioned the potential of political economy, they forget what political economies meant. So how do I move it to the right? Yes, so first I'll remind, although the audience does require the stages of development of economic theory, and maybe later on we'll talk about those aspects which are quite critical right now, and what composes the well, sometimes when they say about synthesis of economic theory and economics, they forget that the economic theory, that the initial stage was 2000 years, and during that stage, the emphasis was made on value. So the aspect of norm was dominating. And if we take political economy, then those who try to talk about restoration, it was the science about richness of people, not physiocrats, not mercantilists, not classical American, not John Stuart Mill, etc. For some reason, they forget about them, and they try to Marxist Lenin economy and make it an absolute one. And what happened here? And here, on the contrary, the forefront, it's macroeconomy that's at the forefront. We see it's a positive analysis of balance, trade balance, balance of payment, trade relationships, the labor relation of values. If we take economics, then voluntary and involuntary, we'll see that there is a negation of negation. And again, with the individual being in the center, microeconomics, and it is the normative aspect, the science of rational behavior. There are criteria of rationality, and they come from the individuum, not the state, not the society, not the region. And moreover, here, it's easy to see. Another thing is that they have made corrections to this section, but once they've added macro there, 3,000 years later, they've introduced micro foundation of macro, so macroeconomic return to where it's been. And if you read Keynes, then they dominated there. So in this context, it's easy to guess what the fourth stage is going to be. There will be more significance of macro, because there's digitization, the development of social network. When a person depends on the society, I don't know about you, but I wake up and go to bed. Because, well, somebody passes me the information. And I know there are Christian and Muslim holidays, but still there is a different problem as well. The entire economics is based on what? It is based on the principle of diminishing value, utility, and productivity, and was the social network. The more people, so there is no ultimate utility. And we can predict it's and I'll skip several slides. And this situation, mercantilism, it also was aimed at a different thing. But again, within the political economy, there are alternative trends, and those alternative trends, theories, they step by step the political economy of labor comes into place. And at least he introduced the notion of productive forces, though Marx added to that, and the productive forces understands everything, including personal interest and the ability to work and many, many other things. So it's not only productive forces in narrow sense of that word. And Marx, from time to time, I ask questions. So Marx was into dialectic of productive forces, and I'll ask a question: what are the main steps of productive forces that Marx referred to? If you open at Tsegolov a textbook, then you'll see that these are productive forces of prehistoric, and but Marx doesn't have that. And my first thesis advisor wrote his research work on that, and he even worked as deputy director of the Institution of Russian Academy of Sciences. And in the encyclopedia, you will see that these natural productive forces are public and general. So these are the three stages of productive forces. And if I ask a question, what are the main forms of productive relations, and Buzgalin wouldn't be able to answer right away. Yes, I had that experiment in Moscow State University.
This is why, because the first format of the productive relations with this is personal dependency or personal independency based on personal dependency, and the third one is the free individuality, and then you get this synthesis, then you can think about it. And Liptovska, she is talking in financial university, and they're not writing anything about that. And then if we talk about the formations, then, well, I published it once in the journals, and the candidate's dissertation, then when they sent only for Nureev, denies the class Marxist-Leninist theory of state and Marxist-Leninist theory of societal formation, but preferring early Marx to late Marx, and now we can smile. But then when it was the party, that was 77, not 37, and I was happy that it was 40 years after the 1937. And Moscow University, we have to give the credit where the credit due. It was 70. They voted for then 5 years after that. I couldn't publish anything after that, and then of course now any journal could take an article, but then it was in the Marx didn't have the society formation, and there will be 100 volumes soon that he doesn't have. He has either society formation, this is the future, and so the patriarchy, you know, the primitive, and then the economic society, and the marginalism. Yeah, well, I'm not going to be talking about that. And then the changes from the value, from the cost, and then it goes from the supply and demand to declining usefulness, utility, and the formal logic turns into mathematical, and then optimization models, and it not the state is in the center, but the the firms and individuals, and then again here we have the continuation of the historical school. That what List was writing about. He was not a member of historical school, but they all knew, and the young, and they take the people's economy and then the problems through the prism of ethics, etc., etc. This, and of course, economics that we're talking about. I'm not going to be talking about that again because the time is running out, and the time is much less than I wanted. I just wanted to draw your attention to the fact that usually what is studied is just the center, and that is either the traditions of Austrian school or the traditions of Cambridge school. And then the palette is much broader, and this is conservative, of course, for example, and radical, of course. Why radical is not studied, but conservative? Why not study conservative? And this, you see, this direction. This is yellow. Yellow. This is conservative, classic, liberal, modern, and then it could be put into a Descartesian system, Descartesian. So. Cartesian system, and then this is developing of the personality, and then the other theories they oriented more the development of society, and some they propose equality, and another one hierarchy. So the radical theories, Marxism, social democracy, conservatism, fascism, etc., and Keynesianism, the classical liberalism. Here you can just see all of it, and this is the economics, neo-nationalism, new classic monetarism, and so it's quite a lot of them, quite a few of them there. And then the shortage of time, the presentation, I'm just gonna give it to you. You can have a look. It is published. It is available anyway. And if you look on the first page, there was a canny book that was published 5 years ago in Cambridge, and just a little bit, a few slides. I'm just gonna go back, and it's well worth it. This book. Even the English, they started, so they didn't want to use the word economics, and there's 26 professors of Oxford professors, they call it экономика. Хозяйство, нежели чем экономика, то есть экономия, нежели чем экономика. So they didn't have the good supervisor, but they start from the productive forces, of course, and genesis of capitalism, but then they don't avoid the words economics. They just did economy rather than economics, and then of course they are looking for something that they haven't found so far. The crisis happened due to the fact that the theory that did occur before the crisis, 2008, 2009, and that exists now in the condition of the sanctions, it doesn't match the rate. So the interest to economics methodology occurs when something is going wrong, and then naturally methodology defines the system. The ways of substantiation, the interpretation of the solutions offered, the change of economic realities, the development of the method, and change of the economics theories, then leads to the fact that when there are changes, significant changes, then there are questions: what we're going to study, from what position, what we use, what kind of toolbox we use for that, how we interpret the results obtained, and what you broad or narrow method, social economic method we're going to use. So the social economic modeling is in a cul-de-sac now, and the model you can see has changed, and the model changes the real world, and it's not ideal. I had to put just a blob there, but in the model it's all the other way around, as Seligman noted, all the development of the economic thought was going on the same way. So this is the model. This is from model to reality for 100 years, and not the other way around. And then we want to get it together, the theory and the values and the data. And here you can see that if we like data, then we get into empirism, and then if values, then we start constructing criticism, and if it is theory, then we're trying to do various constructs, and then etc., 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 and then so the applied econometrics led to the fact that all these wonderful models, they can describe the past, but as soon as we want to extrapolate to the future, 98, if not 9% of these models, they just fail. They fail. And today, Dementiev was talking about, he's talking about cycles, and yeah, the cycle, some cycle, Kondratiev's cycle actually managed to stand to the end, and then now, wow, and these are the new things, and this critique, the non-reality of ontological presuppositions. Then Krugel was writing about it, and Cameron and the others, and I'm not going to be talking about it too much. So this is what's called the positive and normative analysis. And now what is happening here, economist as a technocrat, and so they're talking about the value, your position, etc., etc., and it's the same rational and irrational. And now they get to extremes again. I'm going to show you, and one of them, because rational. What's rational? It is individualistic. It's really individual. So this is the classic definition of rationality, of being rational. This is not mine. This is the. So the rationality could be described: the subject will never choose alternative of X if at the same time there is an alternative Y, which is from his point of view is preferable to the X, and so this you can see the this limit and subjectivity can clearly be seen. And here, so irrationality, this was written about, and Schiller was writing about it, and so you look at it broader. There are 4 options here of behavior of subjects, and they think that these are. You see that where it is shaded there, this is the area of theory. So there are non-economic values, there is rational, and there is rational economic, and there are rational non-economic, and they don't fit. And so Atelov and Schiller, and they think that you cannot have a theoretical abstracting model here. So there's again society and personality, and this is the very, very counterposition, which is very clear, and so shows they try to resolve from their point of view. But the economic determinism is leaving us, and then there's new keynotes from. Then there is a larger number of culturological and other factors, not purely economical, because in the Western literature there is more and more. There are more and more papers trying to show that is much more complex, and this is the criticisms, the critique. So that we're talking these economic types. They do exist, and they're very important. The Homo economicus and Homo societus, and so this we took Pareto here, we took economics, so the economics theory of sociology, because he's trying to do both. Economically is independent, rational, competent, and sociology is altruistic. Sociology is irrational, not very well informed, and incapable of calculating. So. Yes, but that is overdoing it, and then you can have a look here. This is maximizing the usefulness. He's very inventive, etc. But sociologically, this is the other way around. That is the person who is socializing. This is playing the roles associated with the approval of society. And I'm not going to be talking. I'm not going to be misuse the time allocated to me, but if the synthesis is possible, then the theory will be more sociological, in the spirit of historic school and Marx, etc. But it's not synthesis that is not the synthesis that was studied by Marxism, by Marxists in the short course of the history of Communist Party, and the publication is Stanford University, and they have this good example, but it's quite easy.
this is the economic trends in the mirror of propaganda. And there were 2 sessions, and when the plenums in the 30s happened, and Paul Gregory published an interesting book, 10 stories. Well, there are 3 Americans, 3 Russian, and 3, don't remember who. Well, from different countries who gave their comments on that session, on that plenum, and I was also the one who commented on that part. And Bourdieu, Pierre Bourdieu, who reviews the theory of dialectic structuralism. It's quite interesting, and his social reality is structured twice by the social relationships and the agent practices. In this respect, his approach is rather interesting, and I think it will be used when creating new theories. So I think I will end here. Although, as you see, well, this is a big topic, and as well, the beginning, like Svan Georgina said, the beginning of this keynote was published in 2014 in the Institute of Russian Academy of Sciences.